There, I saw the button turn on. Oh, there it went. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. Cinda, will you please do the roll call?
Councilmember Spread,
Present.
Harvey, Brackett, Brockert,
Present.
Saucedo,
Present.
Fitzgerald,
Here.
Malcolm,
Present.
5 present, 2 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. Will you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We're going to go ahead and move on with tonight's agenda. And first of all, I'd like to ask if there's anyone here who would like to speak to council about something that's not on tonight's agenda. Roger, go ahead.
Love, yeah.
Please state your name and address.
Roger Roth.
Raise the
Can you raise the microphone
Up
up?
here somehow.
Raise the microphone up for everyone to hear.
Good.
There you go.
Roger Roth, Clark House. Yesterday and today, we were hearing a lot about D-Day and the price of freedom. Today I have a little something not only for D-Day, but to put more emphasis on how our freedoms work for us. As something that is of a dear price, I go also to Tiananmen Square, which is also an international anniversary for those who observe it. D-Day, Operation Overlord. D-Day covered the period of June 6, 1944 to August 19, 1944. Normandy was a western drive coupled with the Russian eastern push, helping to end the aims of the Third Reich by May 7, 1945. The banner at the 75th anniversary stated correctly that the fallen at Normandy are the true heroes. A survivor at the Bataan March and a present concern stated schools reduced military history to a paragraph or a sentence in school. With my addition, to let them know it makes the repeating of history a better chance to being an actual futuristic reality. Concerning Tiananmen Square, I was one of those that saw what was happening on the news back then. Also on this day is what I call an international memorial for the students that lost their lives as they protested against the government's wrongs done and rights denied. The Chinese democracy's government answer is to kill all of them and give their next of kin a bill for the price of a bullet. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger, and thank you for reminding everyone of something we should never forget. Yes, please. Come to the podium and state your name and address. It's certain. Yes. If it is it about something that's on already tonight's agenda?
It's, yeah, about the issue, and it says here that you could speak at the end.
Okay, so when we get to that issue, that's when you can come up and talk about it, okay?
Sure.
And if I don't ask, remind me. No problem. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to go ahead and go along, and we're going to talk about the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes items 6A, items 8A through O, items 12A and B, and tonight's bills totaling $3,217,601.95.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Saucedo with a second by Councilman Spread. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're going to move along. We have a few public hearings tonight. The first public hearing considers the rezoning of 1.5 acres located along Fifth Street between Walnut and Mulberry. This resolution will change the property from a C1 neighborhood and general commercial and R5 multifamily residence to a C2 central commercial. Now is the time for the public to comment. Hearing nothing, do I have a motion to close this public hearing?
Move to close.
Second?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Saucedo with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Our next public hearing concerns the proposed 2019 asphalt alley project. The City of Muscatine Public Works Department has compiled a list of alleys to be asphalt overlaid. The alleys have been measured, and an estimate has been created along with the plans and specifications. Now is the time for the public to comment. There you go. That's your cue. Come on up. Please state your name and address. You might want to pull that microphone down just a titch, the very front. There you go.
Right there.
That's good.
Okay. My name is Dean Cole. I live at 1206 Grand Avenue.
Okay.
And my issue today is alley repair between Grand Avenue and Lincoln Boulevard that runs north-south. Monroe Street, Jackson, it runs east-west. To give you an idea where you're at.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to go back 38 years ago. I took a collection up to have this alley seal coated. It was gravelled, potholes, dust. I live in the city. I didn't live in the country, you know, there's a lot of dust here, a lot of holes, you know, it wasn't. So I took a collection up, had the alley. We, the neighbors, paid for the seal coating. So all the city had to do was just maintain it. And it held up for several years. Okay, now I'm gonna bring you up to date here. The cities now have done some seal coating and our alley in our area was selected and got repaired. But it didn't held up. Ours got kind of too late in the fall of the year, so some of the stuff that the tar or whatever didn't bond or whatever, it did not work out.
Was this last fall?
I'm trying to remember. No, I think it's like 2 years ago.
Couple
This has
years
been
ago.
an ongoing issue.
Okay. Go
This
ahead.
when Randy Hill was here,
Uh-huh.
I dealt with him. Now I'm with Brian.
Okay.
We were trying to get this resolved. And we said, yeah, we're going to get things taken care of, but it just keeps there. It's not getting taken care of. And I've been the spokesman for the people in our neighborhood.
Okay.
I want to let you know, there's like 26, 27 houses with an average of 2 cars per household. That's 52, 54 vehicles, plus a church that use this alley. Just there's some traffic here. All right? My question is to the city is, I can't fix it, we can't fix it, and the city won't. Okay, when the city came up, when they had issues with the alley that didn't held up because it was too late, there's one alley between Park Avenue and Grand Avenue, Monroe, Jackson. They come back, help fix that one. They come back on our alley, they did half of ours. But the other half went to pieces. They finally came over about a week or so ago and graded it. I do have pictures on my phone to show you how bad it was. Just to get in my driveway, into my garage, like 13 potholes. It's only 40 feet wide.
Could you send us those pictures?
What's that again?
Could you send us those pictures?
Yeah, I sent it to Harvey here. I sent him.
You
'cause
sent him to Councilman Allen? Yeah,
Oh.
Harvey?
Okay.
I'd sent it to him.
Okay.
And he, addressed the issue with me that this was going on tonight, so come down and speak about it.
Okay.
So we can't, like I say, we can't get it fixed. City doesn't, so who's gonna fix it? And I don't, appreciate driving in these holes, trying to get in my garage. That's not good on your front end of your vehicle. your tie rods. You know, you could do damage to your vehicle just trying to get in your vehicle to park in your garage. We've been told over the years that this, you know, every year, hey, we're gonna fix it, we're gonna get it fixed, but we're not on the agenda to get fixed.
So
The
that-
selection
That was
committee.
my next question. You've checked the list and you're not on the list again?
Right, the list that I seen, what I was shown at that time, a couple weeks ago, I did not see ours on there.
Yeah, he's not on here.
Okay.
So this has been, my question is too, is there's been issues here at this alley. Why do we move on to another alley? There's nothing wrong with it, lay over or seal coat it, when this one still has the existing problem? We're not going away. We're still gonna be here. We need the alley fixed. You know, you have vehicles, your house, your garage. Who wants the dust bowl? Who, you know, so far this year with all the rain, unfortunately, all the rain, it helped somewhat. But when it dried up there a couple of days, the dust just came right up out of there.
So, from
Go ahead.
from where to where exactly is your alley that you're concerned about? I'd like to know like specifics. Is it from, you're at 1206 Grand Avenue?
That's right behind me.
Okay.
So it's
are you
like
saying
half the
from-
block.
Are you saying from Monroe Street to
Jackson.
okay, so from Monroe to Jackson. Okay. I would request if you could send us some pictures and then give us some time to at least discuss it, and then maybe have staff review it, and then come back with some information on what we could do or potential options we could give back to you. 'Cause I
Okay.
don't think we're really gonna be able to do anything right now until we have something that we can see.
Okay, I've been involved in this alley, like I say, from day one.
Yeah,
I tried to help take care of it.
The
tried
first
to do
I've
it.
heard
This
of
is
it.
the first
Yeah.
I've heard too.
So-
And I've seen this, and I've seen some of the process, how they laid it, and I question it, but
So it's your contention, though, that one of the recent times that they fixed it, it didn't work?
Didn't
no.
hear or something.
No, that's why they
Okay.
keep coming back. Because it's not bonding, it don't bond, or
Okay.
whether they have to do it, even hot mix or anything, throw over to help fill the hose, to have something to bond it, keep the dust down.
It's, the bonding takes, I mean, it's gotta be 200 degrees before they can even bond. Sometimes if we do some of that stuff in the fall, it may not adhere as well too. So I don't know that until, like I said, you know, let us at least look at some of those pictures, have some more of the council look at it, and then, you know, I'm gonna go down and drive down and look at this as well too, so. At least
It's a
get
lot
chance.
smoother now. A couple weeks ago, you'd think you were on a
I mean-
roller coaster.
It gives us an opportunity to discuss that with staff and then be able to, at least as a council, also make a decision.
Okay,
So that's all, that's,
Thank you for coming and bringing this to our attention, and we'll, if you can email those to even one of us, we can share it with everyone else.
okay. All right, thanks everybody else
Thank
for
you so
serving on
much.
the council.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Hearing nothing else, do I have a motion to close this public hearing?
Move to close.
Second?
second.
We have a motion by Councilman Spread with a second by Councilman Saucedo. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're on 7C, and this public hearing concerns the sale of surplus property located at 500 Mulberry to Ramiro Vasquez. Under the terms of the agreement, the developer will have 6 months to secure and stabilize the property. Now is the time for the public to comment. Hearing nothing, do I have a motion to close?
Move to close.
Second?
Second, Your Honor.
I have a motion by Councilman Saucedo with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. We are moving on down to 11A. Excuse me. We have presented for City Council's consideration the first reading of an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance to rezone 1.5 acres located along Fifth Street between Walnut and Mulberry. This resolution will change the property from a C1 neighborhood and general commercial and R5 multifamily residential to a C2 central commercial, which was public hearing A. Is there now a motion to approve the first reading of this ordinance as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilman Spread. Any discussion?
Do we know what kind of a building that they're planning to put on here?
The city does not have anything at this point in time. We haven't received anything.
So will this come before us again? When it's, since it's been changed zoning, would it come before us for site plan review or
Site
something?
plan review? Yes.
And how much input do we have in the design?
Mayor, council, so, we don't have a lot of, in terms of architectural style, probably not much. The C2 district allows for a certain spread of uses of which the county's proposing would be allowed. They will go through the site plan review process, which is a process, it's a staff process.
Okay.
We don't have any design elements, requirements in that particular zoning district.
So in that commercial zoning, it could be a nice brick building or brick facade, or it could be a, lack of a better term, inexpensive steel building.
It could be, I will add, that question was asked at the P and Z hearing, and their representative stated they're looking to do something that's, the facade that's sensitive to the context, so.
Okay, because with the fact that Fifth and Mulberry will be rehabbed, I would rather not have one eyesore being brought up to put in front of another. So one's made nice, the other one, I'd like to make sure that it fits the neighborhood and looks nice.
I'm sure we're gonna have some sort of drawings come up once they start getting the plans ready.
So, yeah, they will eventually have to file for a building permit. The next step in the process would be the site plan review, which is more the building footprint on the site. Then, once that's approved, then they would do the architectural design. Typically, any developer won't invest a lot in the architectural design before they know if their zoning's been approved.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Hearing nothing else, Councilwoman Brockert, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
And Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're on 11B. Presented for City Council's consideration is the third and final reading of an ordinance amending Title III, Public Ways and Property, Chapter 5, Public Parks, Section 10, subsection N. This ordinance will extend the portion of the riverfront in which alcohol is permitted at special events approved by City Council. In order to move forward with the Almost Friday Fest, this ordinance needs to be amended. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance on third and final reading and to direct for its publication as required by law?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Saucedo with a second by Councilman Spread. Is there any discussion?
I don't know. Where are they gonna go if the river doesn't go down? They're just not gonna do it?
I haven't
It
talked
doesn't
to,
start for a while. Go ahead, sorry.
I haven't talked to Brenda or
Chris?
Chris Bohr here recently, but that portion that they're looking to have the event at is or has been
Currently
dry.
underwater, right?
No, it's
No,
the
it's not.
section down by Millennium Plaza
Okay.
in that large green area. So, assuming the river does go down, we can get the buildings, cleaned up or that, provide access to that section. So hopefully, we can get things cleaned up in time, but no guarantees at this point in time. We're gonna have to look at those buildings, and see how much cleanup work we have to do.
That's why they chose July instead of June to start, but this year,
It's a challenge.
yes. They did say if there's bad weather, they're canceling and not holding it anywhere else or rescheduling, but I haven't heard yet on that part either. Anything else? Hearing none, Councilman Malcolm, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
And Councilman Spread.
Aye.
This ordinance is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11C. Presented for City Council's consideration is the first reading of an ordinance amending Title VII, Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 5, Automated Traffic Enforcement. This amendment will clarify that the ATE speed violations are not limited to marked intersections. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of this ordinance as submitted?
So moved.
So moved, Your Honor.
Would you second, Councilman Spread?
Sure.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilman Spread. Is there any discussion?
So is this for the little vehicle then, obviously? is what I'm
It
taking
affects
that
the
for?
vehicle. It's come up with our local magistrate, so it's simpler just to remove the terminology and remove any confusion from the ordinance.
Because currently, if we have a camera, we have to post a sign saying there's a camera coming up so many 100 feet ahead, right?
Oh, on the permanent fixtures?
Yes.
Yes, there's a number of signage requirements.
Okay.
Hearing nothing else, Councilman Malcolm, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
And Councilman Saucedo.
Aye.
The motion carries. 11D, presented for City Council's consideration is the first reading of an ordinance adding Title 8 Building Regulation, Chapter 11, Private Wells, to the Muscatine City Code. The purpose of this ordinance is to protect public health and safety by regulating the construction of new wells and reuse of old wells for private use. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of this ordinance as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Saucedo with a second by Councilman Fitzgerald. Is there any discussion?
I have questions, Your Honor, and I understand there isn't anyone here from MPW this evening, but I'll ask the questions and submit them to Greg so he can pass them along to MPW. First question is, how many private wells are there remaining currently in the city limits? And do we still have any sand points? Are there any grants available for folks who may need financial assistance in digging a new well, or is MPW going to offer them any financial assistance in getting those wells dug and, you know, give them a chance to repay the loans? And I guess that's pretty much it for me.
So my questions were just if, if there's an existing wells currently in the city limits, they're grandfathered in, and if that's the case, I just want to make sure that we're still allowing them to continue to do that. And from reading that, I think I interpret that that's the way it is, but I just wanted to clarify with them from what I'm
Right.
reading through this.
There are still some, but they're, at least in my subdivision, they're only used for irrigation purposes. We do not use for drinking water.
811.4 does address your issue, and I read it as you do as well, that they are grandfathered in. But we can certainly ask the questions.
I was a little unclear about the one that was discussed in the material that didn't seem to be under the condition that they would prefer. What is going to happen in that situation? So maybe the next time we can get somebody here to answer these questions or get them ahead.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And it appears that that's actually the city's judgment for determining whether or not it's in disrepair, so.
I mean, currently, hypothetically, if somebody were to dig a well right now, they still need to get a permit, they would still need to get, it need to be done by a licensed driller, my understanding, and then they would still need to do all those samples from nitrates and all the good stuff that they would be
So we're
doing.
going to follow state
They would have
law.
to follow all the same regulations that are required. But I think basically what we're stating here is, hey, we have a good system that we have in place. We want to avoid any potential cross-contaminations of somebody accidentally, damaging the actual aquifer where everybody pulls their water from.
And it's
from
also
MPW.
it's also very similar to our ordinance relating to sewers, where we require sewer hookups within a certain distance as well.
So this isn't is this barring any new ones? That's
Basically,
what I thought.
that's the way
It's
I'm reading
barring
this,
any new ones, even if they followed all the rules and got the permits, they
Within the
still
city
can't do
limits,
it.
within, I don't recall how many feet, but there is a footage requirement.
What'd you say, Andrew? Within 200 to 250 feet of city limits? of existing water line.
So on the south end, though, out on the island, we ran water and sewer, and there were houses that were quite a distance away that we've said we're not running it over there because there's one house or two houses. Now, is it going to be our responsibility or the homeowners or Power and Water's responsibility for taking that to them?
They're still not within 250 feet.
Well, that's true.
That is true.
And there are exceptions under 811.5 as well.
Okay.
So saying that though, so that let's say they are within 250 feet, we basically set this in place. Their well goes out 2 years from now,
They're obligated to tie on.
they're obligated to tie in, but is MPW then responsible for paying for running those 200 feet?
No.
Or is that the
It's
homeowners?
the
It's
landowner
the homeowner. That's how it was in the
or business
beginning.
owner, whatever. yeah.
They've had some wells on the south end that when Power and Water's, and when, I won't say Power and Water's been pulling more water, but when more water's being pulled from the aquifer, there were some shallower wells that had to be
Dug deeper.
dug deeper, and in order to maintain good water quality. And that was at the cost of the homeowners.
Well,
Real happy.
okay.
Well, we'll get some questions answered. So, for the first reading of the ordinance, Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert,
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo,
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm,
Aye.
and Councilman Fitzgerald.
Aye.
This motion carries. We're on 11E. Presented for City Council's consideration is the first reading of an ordinance amending storm shelter requirements in city code. Staff recommends amending the code to maintain the safety aspects of the code while minimizing the costs. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of this ordinance as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I got a question on it. When we wrote this up, and I'm reading through this, and it says Group E occupancies. In the first line item, it says exemptions for daycare facilities, occupancies, places of religious worship, buildings with meeting requirements that are already meeting the ICC 500. It doesn't say anything about that they're, somebody builds a Walmart, somebody builds a retirement home that we know that's gonna house over 50 people. How do you exempt that?
Mayor, Council, Jody Royal, Goodwin Community Development Director. So remembering that storm shelter requirements are only triggered for critical services that include Group E occupancies and things such as ambulance service and police service. It doesn't cover general commercial. So when you look at the code, the trigger under 423 is it's a Group E occupancy or a critical service.
So the daycare fits that, though?
A daycare would be Group E occupancy, but it has, by code, it is exempt from the storm shelter
Okay.
requirement.
So no
So
hospitals,
we didn't change,
no,
correct, and we didn't change that. We did not change the exemptions. It's just a part of the language that's
This is
currently
just giving
in.
us wiggle room to take out some of the requirements for the lighting in the bathroom and
Correct.
different things like that.
Yes, so the thing it's changed.
Non-safety.
Correct.
Go ahead.
So it changes two parts. The one is that it changes the requirement to apply to address the entire occupant load of the entire facility. So the school, the STEM building, under the code as it was written and adopted from ICC, it would require a shelter that would house all 1,500 people in that building. So we changed that to allow it to be the occupant load of the addition, if it's an addition. So in this case, it had to address the 361 occupant load of the new portion. And then what we took out was the comfort part of the actual ICC 500.
And so my question is, if that's triggered when they have an addition, then the school district has met their requirement for that addition, correct?
Talking about
This-
STEM
with
shelter
the shelter.
specifically?
Pardon?
It's talking about the STEM addition specifically? Yes, they will meet that through the concession building.
So what are the, if they put another addition on that meets the requirement?
No,
Have
it
they
would
already met the requirement then?
No, it would trigger a new, so it would be the occupant load of the new addition.
They would have to do another
Another
shelter.
shelter.
Yes. Or
Okay.
incorporate it into that addition. They could harden some section of that addition,
Is
the
that
design.
clear in the language?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah. Well, that was the part that was bothering me, because then they've got a shelter, so now they're exempt from any further requirements.
The read in Community Development Department is that the shelter requirement only wouldn't be triggered if the entire occupant load of the school was met to begin with. So they had, just say, for some reason, the concession building was actually Mongo, and it actually would hold all 1,500 people, then there would be no need to require an
Correct.
additional shelter.
Correct,
But-
correct. That I understand.
Jody, in order for them to start using the STEM building, though, the storm shelter has to be up and ready to be used, right? It
Yes.
can't be, we're going to do that later.
Correct.
Okay.
Is there anything in here that says the distance it needs to be?
The ICC 500 has its own has that in there. It's not in this because we didn't change it. And it has, so the shelter space has to be within 1,000 feet of the constructed building, I think is what it is.
Which seems odd to me that you want the kids running out there in the storm, but
1,000 feet.
if that's the rule, that's the rule.
Okay.
Are you good?
No, I'm not. If there was actually a tornado coming, you go through the fight and flight, you're gonna stay exactly where you're at, but if that's what ICC 500's got, I'm not arguing with it.
Thank you, Jody. Let's see, hearing nothing else. Councilman Malcolm, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
You're the only guy left. Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
The motion carries. We're on 11F. Presented for City Council's consideration is the first reading of an ordinance amending Title IX, Chapter 3 of the City Code. Iowa Legislature drafted and passed Senate File 93, which included various amendments to Iowa Code Chapter 657A. These amendments created additional mechanisms for private parties to seek court intervention and require corrections and improvements to abandoned structures within city limits. In order for private properties to be able to avail themselves of the new private remedies available to cities, they must opt in via ordinance to allow these new remedies to exist within the city limits. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of this ordinance as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Is there any discussion?
Could you give us an example of where something like this would work?
You would need a structure that's rehabable. You're going to need an individual or the city as a complainant or complaining party to be part of the lawsuit or the case. We would not take ownership as we do as part of the other 657A process, but the not-for-profit or the other entity would take ownership of the building at the end of the case. So it's going to be a building or a home that is rehabable, not one that is we're going
ready
to have
to
to
be
tear
demoed.
down or demoed.
It could save it from being demoed.
Yeah, man, that's what I was just trying to put that into perspective in my mind, when I read through that. All right.
And does it have to be a not-for-profit, or can it just be a homeowner that's maybe adjacent? That's what I thought. 'Cause that-
Jody said it can be an adjacent owner.
Right. The only issue I saw coming up was who's going to be the complainant and whether or not there's somebody who's going to be willing to be the complainant. But I would think the city would be able to step up and be the complainant in most cases. But you may have somebody that, if it is the adjacent property owner, for example, that wants to take on the project, I mean, they may be willing to step up. But I do see in us that the city being a participant in those cases most often.
So to be clear, our purpose tonight is simply to recognize the change in state code and agree to opt in. We're not
And-
committing to anything more than that.
So we have the option in the future if it comes up.
Right.
That's correct.
Okay.
Hearing nothing else, Councilwoman Brockert, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
And Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
This first reading of the ordinance, motion carried. 11G, presented for City Council's consideration as a resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, cost estimate, and setting a date of June 20th of 2019 for receipt of bids for the 2019 Asphalt Alley Program. It's what we talked about in Public Hearing B. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilman Saucedo. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Councilman Malcolm, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett, or Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
And Councilwoman Brockert.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. Doesn't mean we're not going to get your answers to your question. 11H, presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution approving a real estate purchase and development agreement for surplus city property located at 500 Mulberry Avenue. In 2018, the city secured the deed for this property and proposals were solicited for its development. Staff recommends that City Council approve the real estate purchase and development agreement with Ramiro Vasquez and approve the execution of deed for surplus property, which is what we discussed in Public Hearing C. And do I have a motion to adopt this resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
We're gonna fight over that one. We want this finished.
It's done.
Councilman Spread, will you second?
Yes. I
We have a
certainly
motion
will.
by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilman Spread. You were a little bit late on the draw. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Your Honor, I actually, as bad as I would like this to go away, everybody knows I've been, this has been a pet peeve for me. But however, I got a challenge because I sent an email and asked one big question. We're agreeing to a loan, a forgivable loan to make this happen. And my basic question is this person financially qualified to do this even if we didn't offer the forgivable loan? It's just, I'm a little concerned about the use of taxpayer money if this thing goes south. I don't want this to end up badly.
Well, so to be clear, the city council and the city included this project in our urban renewal plan. So one, it is in the urban renewal plan and allows for the use of TIF. We also put together an RFP that went out for proposals. We received 2 proposals. The proposal number 1, we went through a long period of discussion and finally pulled out. Bidder number 2, Mr. Vasquez, is interested in the property. We did not, the city did not require that the individual or did not, let's see, I want to say this correctly, we would not exempt individuals if they could do this on their own. We offered an incentive to encourage folks to take on this project, which is a significant project, and the building is in serious need, as we all know, of rehab, and in this case, we'll end up with a building that has been rehabbed. The walls, the roof, the windows will be taken care of, and it'll still be on the tax rolls and hopefully have a business or other occupancy in there at a later date. So that was not a requirement that the city placed upon the individuals. The goal was to get this property, back on the tax rolls, repaired, cleaned up, And we did offer an incentive to do that. The other piece being demolition option. Our next option is to demolish the building, which our estimates were upwards of $200,000 to $300,000 to do so. So in this case, you're looking at a savings to the city by not having to demolish the building. You're looking at a significant cost savings as well.
It was over
And
300,000.
Up to $300,000.
It was over 300,000, yeah,
And
the first estimates, not
did-
including the asbestos removal.
And did not include business interference repayment in that estimate, nor did it include, well,
Well,
we'll
the
leave it
potential
at that.
loss of the other building,
Yeah.
or the other half of
Right.
the building was the big,
Right.
another concern.
So by incentivizing the property, we were able to obtain two interested parties, and ultimately, Mr. Vasquez, who is here tonight, responded positively. We were able to pull this together quickly, and we're anxious to get this project moving forward. So he's met all of the requirements that the city has placed upon him at this point.
With that said, that's very nice. It still didn't answer my question. Is this person capable of doing this on their own if there was no forgivable loan attached in the agreement? I mean, you just, I mean, can I walk? I mean, it'd be nice for me, my very first car in life was nice to buy, but if my mother hadn't wrote a check for $500, I wouldn't have been able to qualify for the car, even though they thought I was a very nice guy and I had great credit. And that's all I just said. Is this person capable of doing this, even if this was not, is this part of his qualifications with the bank or the financial institutions that's helping him do this or not? Could he do it if this was not available to him? That was
I don't have the answer to that, nor can I ask that question, because it is not a requirement of the bid.
And I will go out, and not out on a limb, because I know Romero. I can assure you that this project will be completed in a timely manner, and it will be done correctly, because he's a contractor in the area. He's been doing some innovative things with different foundations. He's the only one doing the foam block foundations. He's already invested in 2nd Street, in some of the downtown buildings, brought them back, keeps doing work and rehabbing and very viable businesses, so.
See, that's what I needed to hear, because like I said, I don't know this person. I've never seen this person.
Yeah.
And we all know that Fifth and Mulberry is something that I bring up weekly. I want this to please go away, but I don't want it to come back and visit me either.
Financially, nobody's going to want to invest in that building without having an incentive. And when you look at it from a city standpoint and taxpayer standpoint, do you want to burden the taxpayers with the $300,000 plus, cost of tearing the building down, and potentially put the risk of another business that's right beside there, which is putting more risk for the city. And then at the end of the day, you don't get anything on the tax rolls. And so from a investment standpoint, putting a forgivable loan out there is kind of putting the carrot out there to hope that we can get somebody to invest into it at even, a quarter of the cost, or, 3/8 of the cost potentially, to say, hey, now we can get something back. Now, could he invest into it by himself? Yeah, probably. It wouldn't be a wise investment. It's like you saying, are you going to go out and buy the Mercedes-Benz, for $50,000 when you can probably get it for, $25,000? It's a matter of saying, where do I want to make my investments to get my return on my investment? And so from that situation, could he? Probably, but he's not going to. Nobody would. That's why we didn't have a line of people investing to
I
sign
think
up
I
on
hear
it.
what you're saying, though. I think maybe a quick little 2 or 3 sentences explaining this is a reputable contractor in the community that we trust will take care of the problem and work the project might have
I don't want
relieved
it to
some
be
of
the-
your
I
concerns.
don't want it to be the dog to come back and bite me.
I understand.
It
Yep.
ain't coming back to bite us.
Sounds like
I
we're
need this to go away.
like everyone's confident.
To be clear, Oz, the previous council, you were not here, approved the RFP that included that incentive. But then this council approved it again when we approved the urban renewal plan.
Yes.
Okay. And
Are
in
where we
this-
are.
Excuse me, Tom. Section 2, obligations of the developer, Section 2.01, evidence of financial capacity reads, prior to conveyance of the property, the developer shall provide to the city a letter of credit demonstrating that developer has the financial capacity to take each action necessary to carry out and complete the project. And I think that's what really protects him and us.
And that was an outgrowth of the issue we're having with that house on 12th Street. I'm sorry,
That was-
Highway
yeah, I
Avenue.
remember that we
Highway
changed
Avenue.
that.
Okay.
That's not gonna happen ever again.
That's right.
So
We hope.
my only comment on all of this, which is, again, we're completely good, is the forgivable loan, when we issue that to the new owner, is that gonna be a
Annual percentage like our other loan?
No. Is that gonna be given to him within 6 weeks, or is it gonna be given to him in a month?
City
Because, I mean, if
council-
we're giving him 180 days to do all of the rest of the work, and if he potentially were gonna use any of those funds as an investment to maybe start buying windows, buying material,
It'd be nice to get it
it would be
quickly.
nice if we say, if we're gonna give him 180 days, but then we're only gonna give him 100 days before we issue him that funds, I would like to say that those should, when the date of the fund is issued for him, maybe that should be the date that the 180 days start.
Mayor, council,
Yes.
so actually,
Oh, I see.
the
I see.
terms of the forgivable loan actually have us dispersing the funds not less than 45 days, because he has 45 days to decide it's not a viable project and tell us he's not proceeding. And at that point, then he can ask for it when he's ready to start.
So in 45 days,
Yeah.
he could go, here you go.
Then we're taking it
And
down.
then we're taking it down.
But then we still initiate the 180 days from this date.
At that
He has
point?
180 days to finish
From the day of the-
securing of the securing the building from the exterior, so fixing the facade, replacing the windows. But 45 days to actually decide if he starts getting into it, it's like, oh, wait, this is a $400,000 project, not a $250,000, $300,000 project, and that is his breaking point, then he could be, in 45 days, he could say, never mind.
But do you follow where I'm asking as far as the date goes? So if we say July 15th, for example, does he have 45 days, or 180 days starts from July 15th, if we make
No,
this
his
agreement?
180 days starts from the date of the execution of the agreement.
Okay, which will start after we from those 45 days, okay.
No,
So
the 45 days are part of the
the
180.
180 days.
That's what he's saying, that could
Sorry,
create a
yeah,
problem.
108,
see, that's
so
what
it's
I'm-
45 days, and then it just keeps going to 180. It's not 45 days plus 180 days, so it's not 225 days.
So your concern is
I
valid.
just wish he would have more of that time, because there's a lot of work.
And
there.
there-
Well,
aren't there,
it's December in 180 days, I just want to say.
There is a provision for an extension.
there you go, that's,
Included in here.
Okay.
I
mean, if we're making the good
as we all
progress, it's
know,
just-
Weather has been an issue lately, but there is a provision for an extension.
Okay,
yeah.
then I'm good with it, as long as we can do that and still work with the contractor to meet those needs.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Looking forward to
We
it.
want to help him be successful every way we can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hearing nothing else, Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Salcedo?
Double yes. Yes, I.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. Ron, 11I. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution to approve an easement agreement which covers the route of the West Side Trail between Hauser Street and Discovery Park. These agreements will complete the process of acquiring property and easements necessary for the construction of this project. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Malcolm, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
And Councilman Salcedo?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11J, Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution approving an easement agreement between the City of Muscatine and Hershey Property. Hershey Property has requested a permanent easement to encroach into the right-of-way adjacent to their property at 216 Sycamore Street. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion by Councilman Malcolm with a second by Councilman Saucedo. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Fitzgerald, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
And Councilman Saucedo.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution setting a public hearing on June 20th of 2019 to authorize the city attorney to initiate condemnation proceedings for the acquisition of real property owned by Gregory A. Johnston, located at 515 East 2nd Street. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilman Spread. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Malcolm, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
And Councilman Saucedo.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11L, presented for City Council's consideration, is a resolution approving the completed work for the 2018 PCC Full Depth Patching Project. All of the work under the contract has been completed, approved by our city engineer, and appears to meet the requirements of the plans and specifications. Staff recommends making payments of $8,485.97 immediately for completed and accepted work, and to make a check for $31,099.29 for retainage 30 days from this acceptance to All American Concrete to close out the project. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Brockert with a second by Councilman Saucedo. Is there any discussion?
I have a question about this $31,000. I don't understand. If we're paying them off, the way I'm reading this, we're paying them a retainer?
We always keep,
Balance is 39.
Yes.
Yeah, the balance is 39,000.
Balance is 39,500. That's in, if
Okay.
you read through it further in there.
Okay. See, that's what I can get. I'm like, why? I'm looking at like you take an attorney and you pay a retainer, and I'm like, why are they on retainer?
There's still a balance on it.
Okay. Sorry, Jim. You needed to exercise anyway.
Yeah, there you go, Jim. Hearing nothing else, Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
And Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
This resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11M. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution approving the award for the 2019 PCC patching contract to Higher Construction. Bids were received May 23rd of this year, and the low bid was from Higher Construction in the amount of $919,875. It is staff's recommendation to award the project to Higher Construction. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Saucedo with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Is there any discussion?
On the list that you came up with for these locations, do we have right now it just kind of shows a general list. Do we have the amount of streets, how many streets we're going to be doing, what month we're going to be doing any of them, or is there any of that on the website, like you're doing it for current, like the alleys that we're marking up and things like that? And the reason why I'm confused on it a little bit too is because when we did the Higher Construction, we had approved that for $1 million, and then they did 600,000. So I just want to make sure that, because you did that, and I think I asked that last year in regards to how this was like an indefinite, continuous, indefinite quantity contract.
Yes, Mayor, Council, Brian Steinman, Public Works Director. To answer your question, until this is approved and we have hired the contractor and have a pre-construction meeting, I cannot give you a line of march for how they're going to accomplish the work or where exactly what will be done. However, once we do that, then we certainly can publish that and make that public to where they will be, when they'll be there. And we also will keep the public notified of which roads will be closed and when they'll be closed, assuming weather conditions are great and everything else.
Yep.
Yes, it is an indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. So what we'll do is we'll get as much done as we can until we run out of money. So we're assuming that we have around $900,000. This is a little bit over. We may, depending on how the patches end up, there's always field adjustments, things like that could affect the finished number, the final number. But we have that flexibility in there to do more or less depending on where our budget comes in, if we need to.
By the way, I interpret that then, so then technically in what we did with All-American, we actually were under, correct? I mean, because you had estimated $1 million.
Right, so we may have, we had to spend some other money on some other things, so we had to take that money away from that project because we only have a limited number of dollars for road use tax that we're able to use. So there were some rail crossings and other projects that came about that we were forced to take money from.
All right. Okay, well, yeah, if we can update something that kind of identifies the public to be able to see, because I know this last year, and again, it was our first, big year that we did it, and it was a great success. I love the full depth. I think it's a great way for us to continue to repair our streets. But there was so much confusion as far as where they were at sometimes,
Sure.
where they were marking
And
roads
we have
and where we're not.
We have allowed them to work in more than one place at one time in order to speed up the process. One thing that we did include this year in their bid is they will be buying a set of traffic control devices, lights essentially, for opposite ends, so that
it's a
it'll
great
be
idea.
automatically to let cars go through and back. That was based on council recommendation. So we will own that once this project is done. They bought it. We get it from them. They'll use it for this project, and then going forward, we'll have that for other projects, whether fold-up patching or anything else that we may need that for. But definitely we'll work with communications director, and we'll get those areas posted once we know them.
Speaking of that, I just want to comment on that question, which you just brought up about those lights. Was there a big difference between those lights, between both of those bids? Because there was a $20,000 difference.
That I do not know, but I can find out.
One bid it for $31,000, one bid it for $51,000 on those lights, the line items.
Jim knows. He reviewed the bid app, so.
I mean, obviously, they were probably going off specs that we told them, but it was just unusual that they would have had such a difference in the bid.
Mayor, Council, the low bid and the second low bid were $40,000 difference. If I remember looking in the bid tab on the cost of the signals, the difference was about 20.
That's what he's saying.
That's what
I
Why?
thought.
Why such a big
So what I'm
difference?
that's exactly what I was asking.
Why such a big difference?
Was there this different spec that we gave them, or
No.
did they
No,
come back and just say,
there's-
hey,
there's-
we're just gonna charge you $51,000 versus
There's
$30,000?
no difference on the spec or anything.
Okay.
That's just what they decided to do. So we have no idea what's included in there for profit. We have no idea
Okay.
which supplier they decided to get it from.
Yeah,
We
because they
don't
were
know
only like $40,000. I mean, that was a big one for
Yeah.
them to miss, but it is what it is.
Agreed.
Okay.
Thank you. Are you good?
Yes,
Okay.
sorry.
Hearing nothing else, Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
And Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11N. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution accepting a warranty deed for property located at 104 Clinton Street. This home was damaged beyond repair by a fire on February 25th of 2019. What remains of the structure needs to be demolished, as it is a public safety hazard. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Saucedo with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11O, presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution setting a public hearing on June 20th of 2019 for the approval of plans, specs, and form of contract for the municipal airport apron and municipal airport hangar construction project. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Brockert with a second by Councilman Malcolm. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Malcolm.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. We've almost got our agenda for June 20th of 2019 written, I see. We're on 11P. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve a contract with MCC Video for a local access TV online communications agreement. This agreement will continue the previous partnership with a few adjustments to reflect new services now being offered and fee schedule updates. Is there a motion to approve this request as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Saucedo with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Is there any discussion? I have a question. I was reading through the support materials, and I couldn't figure out what were the few adjustments that were made. Do we know? I mean, I know there's a fee schedule increase every time, but it said that there were a few adjustments to reflect new services. Do we know what the adjustments were and what the new services are? Because it wasn't highlighted, so it was difficult to pull that out.
I believe it's simply the information that Chad had noted up in his memo about the new services, but I believe the contract is the same contract that we received, other than the addition.
Other than the
Right.
price
So
change?
I think he's referring to the
The new
He's,
HD programming, maybe?
the new programming.
Think-
up-
okay.
up
Service
above
announcements and
is
Twitter
part of his
feeds.
Services.
So that would be it?
Yeah.
Okay,
The new channel.
Yeah.
Yes.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I didn't hear any opposed, so the request is approved with all ayes. 11Q, presented for City Council's consideration, is a request to approve a purchase agreement for the sale of surplus property, lots 5 and 10 of Schulten's Addition. City staff have determined this property no longer serves a useful purpose and have negotiated a selling price with adjacent property owners. Is there a motion to approve this request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Brockert with a second by Councilman Saucedo. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11R, we have taken from tonight's agenda. We're on 11S then. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to increase the speed limit on Izard Avenue from US Highway 61 to Blaine Street. The current speed limit is 25 miles an hour, and staff is proposing it be raised to 35 miles an hour. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilman Saucedo. Is there any discussion? I had the same comment I did when we talked about the last one. It's not that I'm concerned about raising it to 35 instead of 25, but when we talked about Hauser last year, the reasoning behind switching Hauser to lower was so that it would be the same all the way down the street. But now we're switching it so it's not the same all the way down the street on these two. So it just seems like, does that make sense?
Should we raise Hauser Street?
Well, remember,
I voted.
Councilwoman Brockert
Yes, we
talked
did.
about it extensively and going down that hill, and the whole idea was it's got to be the same all the way.
Mayor, council,
Yes?
you're talking about Hauser that goes a long distance, and we want it all to be the same speed limit.
Right.
Okay, set that over on the side. Now we're talking about Isaac, where you come off of the bypass, where the speed limit is 55.
Whatever
Okay.
you drive.
But
So
no,
now
we
you're
tried.
55, and you have to make a transition between 55 and 25. How do you do that? Where do you do that? That's what this is about.
I know.
So it's different.
But
than Hauser.
Isaac now is going to be two different speed limits.
But it's in an area where you're transitioning from 55 to 25.
It's an access.
So you have to do
I
that somewhere.
understand.
There's no place on Hauser you would do that. No transitions. Well, actually, we did have
There's a
transitions,
stop
and we
sign
wanted to get
there,
rid of
though,
those.
so that could
True.
be like a natural transition.
True. But hopefully you see
I
what
got
that's-
it. I got it.
Anything else?
Well, I have a question for Chief. How does law enforcement feel about dropping the speed limit or raising the speed limit on that section of road?
Actually, with the speed limit there, when we did this study, it showed the 85th percentile was 35 mile an hour.
So we were speeding
So
through
that's
there
pretty much
anyway.
the standard when you put those out. I'd have no problem with it. It is hard for people to transition down. You know, it's such a nice road too, and I think that's one of the problems with like Lucas Street because it's so narrow. I know we've been looking at that too, but I don't know if we should do that until we actually redo that road, if that's ever in the plans.
And there's no
So-
shoulder at all.
There's no shoulder. It's
And it's a deep,
I mean, it's a nice road, but I just don't know if we should look at 35. I know we've been discussing it in our meetings, but
maybe
I think we should
30.
probably put that one on hold for a little bit. But as for Isaac, I don't see a problem with that because we transitioned down right before Oak Park. So,
Okay, and the rest of it will stay 25.
right.
Okay, thank
And I'd
you.
rather have that stay 25.
Okay.
But it is hard because, I mean, I catch myself doing the same thing and just like
You get
everybody
off
else
the
does.
interstate too, onto
Right.
38,
Yep.
same deal.
So I don't have any problems with it, so. And we'll still put our car out there, but we'll have it at 35. So.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Hearing nothing else, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. We're on 11T. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve a contract with Frears and Sons Tree Service for trimming and removal of trees. Community Development put out a request for bids and only one bid was received. Staff recommends that council approve the 2-year contract with Frears and Sons. Is there a motion to approve this request as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Saucedo with a second by Councilman Fitzgerald. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Spread? Oh, no. We can just do all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11U, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the issuance of a purchase order to Cone Elevators in the amount of $34,840 for elevator updates to meet the 2020 state mandated upgrades. There is $36,592 budgeted for this expense. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
Is there any discussion?
Just, what upgrades are they doing?
And is it the elevator here?
No, this is at the Public Works.
Was that Public Works?
Yeah.
Mayor, Council, no, there are 4 elevators that will be upgraded. Councilman Malcolm asked me to describe those 2, so I will while I'm here. So there's the one at the Public Safety Building, there's the one at City Hall, which is this one here, and then there are 2 at the Arts Center. Those upgrades vary, and I don't have the exact work that will be done, but to come into compliance with the 2020 mandates, it's things that are like a call-out system in case somebody gets trapped in the elevator. Some of the buttons and the door closure mechanisms may need to be evaluated and then upgraded. It's not that the elevators that we have here are not safe; they are. It's just to bring them up to newer upgrade codes per the state regulations. So I can get those upgrades to you if you want. I do not have them with me right now, though.
I just don't remember talking about this in budget, I guess, but.
It was in part of the deferred maintenance budget, I believe, or else it may have been an operating budget, but it's a required mandate, so we don't have an option to do it, to not do it, I'm sorry.
But we're not out of compliance currently, and after
Correct.
these are done, will this Cone Elevators actually give us our certification through the state, or do we still have to
Yeah,
have the
so,
state inspector
so
come in?
Kone is the manufacturer for several of these, and they are our contract vendor. So yes, we will receive certifications once the upgrades are done, and then we'll have them inspected, and then we'll be in compliance.
So Brian, so let me get this right. So that's 4 elevators.
Correct.
Okay.
We do have more than that. There's an elevator at the transfer station, and That one's not on this list because I believe that that one had either been upgraded or it has another year before it has to be and come into compliance.
Okay,
So-
like I said, that's why I asked that
You
question.
haven't written
to
all
you.
of them, I know, but yeah,
I
we have
had
more
no
than
idea
this
we
one.
had that many elevators, okay.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hearing nothing else, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. We're on 12, communications. Councilman Spread, do you have anything tonight?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
I just had one question from an individual tonight related to Park Avenue. Evidently, we've been marking the roadway or doing some work. And an individual was questioning how much access or lack thereof businesses will have when the work is being done.
Sure. As in any project, we will do our utmost to maintain access to everybody and everyone through the project. This is the 4-lane to 3-lane conversion. So staff was out today marking where the full-depth patches should be made before we overlay the street and then restripe it. So that project is now going into final design or, well, preliminary design, and then it'll go to final design. So we need to know where those patches were so that we can arrange quantities and get those into the plans and specifications. So we will do our best to minimize any disturbance to anybody on there. This project is not, I don't anticipate it to be as in-depth as like Mississippi Drive because we're not tearing everything out and then redoing it. This is more of just a patch here, a patch there, mill and overlay. We should be able to do all that under traffic without any major problems to anybody.
So you still have two lanes of traffic?
That would be the plan, correct. We really can't close that road for any length of time. There's no good detours for that, so we'll be working on under traffic.
Are we doing any curb and gutter?
Yes, there'll be curb and gutter sections, and then
Lots, yeah.
all of the handicap ramps will be improved to meet ADA requirements. So there'll be a lot of work at basically every corner intersection will be changed and improved, if you will.
And then
Yeah.
we're cutting the grade, the
That is
dirt from
yes,
curb to sidewalk.
Correct. We met with the design consultant this week, and we stressed that was a council request, and that is no problem. And we'll put that in the bid specifications. That will be arranged as well.
Okay, and we will look at signage for streets.
Yes. All that stuff
Talked to
is.
you about that earlier.
Yep. All that is in the works right now.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Is that all you had?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Saucedo?
Just had two things. I got a call on the recycle containers that we got going on over at the
Transfer station?
transfer station where we're moving those, and I didn't know that we were gonna do that, I guess. Joyce?
Yeah. So a lot of things have changed in the recycling business in the past, well, even the last year. As part of the lease agreement that we had with Republic Services, for them to have the baler and all their equipment in the west or the east side of the transfer station building, they provided those drop-off areas to Muscatine, to the city at that location. There is no longer a market. There's no longer a market or a buyer for recyclables. The market has gone down. China was our main taker of those things due to different issues with contamination from mixing things and dirty containers, all that kind of stuff. They're no longer taking as much as they were. So it's very difficult to find a market for those products. When this agreement was first entered into, we were getting revenue from Republic. They were paying us to take those recyclables and to have those containers there. That market has gone away. So therefore, they are no longer interested in providing that service, and they're no longer interested in keeping their equipment in our building, which is good because now John Cook has a place to put part of his stuff. But so that service will go away. Staff looked at the cost for the city to provide it or to contract with Republic to provide it, and it is way beyond our budget. We did not anticipate that going into next year, fiscal year's budget, and even if we had, at the rates and the revenue that we generate through refuse collection and recycling, there's no way to do it. So everybody that lives in town still has their curbside recycling. That will not change. That's a service that they pay for and they receive. But the county, the dump offs there, that's going to go away. We did reach out to the county and ask them if they would be interested in picking up helping with the cost of that, and they had chose not to at this time as well. So we're really left with no other alternative but to, the Republicans will take their equipment, that's their stuff, they'll take it away, and we have nothing to replace it with.
And just as a reminder, there was a memo by Dave Pop in one of my recent updates outlining the costs associated with that as well. I hadn't received any feedback from it, and then received word from Nancy Schreiber that the county was not interested in participating at this point in time. And a rough estimate of usage for that area was about, I believe David indicated that it was about 70% county, 30% city.
That wouldn't surprise me.
The
How do they know-
complaints
how do they know that, though?
I know.
How do you know that?
Cameras.
There's
Most of the comments were from the county on the Facebook page.
And it's, you know, it's unfortunate.
looking
It's,
at that.
You know, it's, it's definitely unfortunate. You know, that as a person with an environmental background and, you know, I hate to see that service not be provided, but realistically, dollar-wise, it's not economical to do it. It's, you're almost better just putting it in the landfill, as much as I hate to say that.
What I guess I'm more concerned about is that, you know, we're paying an enormous amount of costs already for our recycle that yet we believe is going to the same group. You know, I'm questionable about when, you know, at what cost and at what time are we gonna see those increases? Because if they're losing money, they're gonna come back and charge us more. And are we gonna be in a position to say, hey, are we gonna start just incurring that cost? Yes, we wanna be green, we wanna be, you know, trying to be recycling, but are we paying more money than what it's worth if they're just coming back and charging us more money? Because if you're saying that those costs are that increased to that amount, then obviously it's gonna eventually, you know, domino effect down. And
Then we won't even get our.
and then it's not even, and then we're not even gonna be able
Yeah.
to.
Right.
So.
They're already asking for increases in wages, but, not wages, but in contract services, but we have a contract with them. When that expires, we can go out for an RFP for services. And if we want to include this service or other services in that RFP or as subsets of that RFP, we can certainly do that to see what the costs are at the time.
How long is the contract that we have with them, Craig?
Do you recall when the current one expires?
No, I think we have a couple more years, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do they, if they can't sell the stuff, what are they doing with it? They
A lot
landfilling
of,
it?
They're probably landfilling it.
right now, a lot of them are stockpiling it. Like Scott County they're kind of keeping it and trying to wait for the market to rebound. This is a nationwide epidemic
I
too.
know.
There are many counties and cities that have gone away from recyclables because it simply can't justify the cost any longer.
That's terrible.
It's an unfortunate deal, but you know, everything used to go to China, and China has cut back on what they're taking, and there's just no other market for it. Nobody's using it. Nobody's found a good use for this stuff, I guess, and then so there's no demand for it anymore.
Okay.
Okay.
It's like I said, it's a
and-
bad
and-
situation to be
no,
in
and that's
as a
fine. I just
director
wanna
and
make
as
sure that-
staff,
that-
but
that
just so
we're
the public
clear on what
knows that
it
we really
is.
don't have another choice. That's all.
And that more than meets the understanding.
Yeah, okay.
I can definitely tell you that I don't agree with it being 70-30 because there's no doubt in my mind that there's no way that can be quantified there.
Yeah, you're probably
But-
right. It's probably
It'll
closer
be
to
80-20.
80-20.
On my last item that I want to just do, I wanted to just comment, I was really happy that we were able to get the ribbon cutting yesterday that the mayor and everyone was at. I just wanted to also, you know, I guess do a little bit of a recognition as well to the leadership of Muscatine. I remember they were the group that was actually here that presented us that group, and I know that the staff has done a tremendous work on the soccer expansion as well, but I also want to recognize that leadership group and having, you know, a city like ours that actually has a leadership group that allows future leaders to be on and bring projects like what was brought up to that. And I kind of want to make sure that we give them the due recognition as well as that they had done for the work on that as well. That's all I had.
Thank you. Councilwoman Brockert?
The only thing I have tonight is I wish to recognize the street department once again for all of the work they're doing with patching potholes and getting ready to clean up down on the riverfront if and when the river ever goes down. That those guys do a lot, and ladies do a lot of work for us that we pretty much take for granted. So my hat's off to them.
Thank you. Councilman Malcolm?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor. Thank you.
Staff?
I just want to echo the comments that we heard earlier. There was a great turnout yesterday for the ribbon cutting ceremony. Had nothing but positive comments and a lot of excitement about the trail going from the complex to the Arboretum as well. So all positive comments yesterday, and I'd like to thank all of the folks that, not only staff, but all of the folks that participated in that event. And Kevin put out a nice summary today and listed all of the folks that participated as well. And I did send a personal note to Leadership Muscatine Group this morning, thanking them for their participation as well. So.
Good.
Thank you. I had a couple questions first. First of all, we had asked a while back for, and maybe it's still in the process, for some discussions in the traffic committee about like a stop sign at Fulham Hauser. Have they talked about that? I know, we all know what staff recommended, but I think Councilman Harvey asked for them to discuss something else now besides the roundabout. And is that anywhere in the process?
Well, I would say that we have given it our best effort. We presented our best effort. And so at this point, the committee, the group feels that you have our suggestion. At this point, we have not looked at doing anything else. So we wouldn't recommend anything different than what we have already recommended. So if council wants to do something different, that would be at your discretion, and we would do as directed by the majority vote of the council. But at this point, our committee we feel that we have spoken and made our recommendation, and we have nothing else to offer.
Okay. So then you just need council to vote to put a four-way stop or something in there?
Yeah, that's what you wanted to do,
Okay.
yeah.
So let me get this right. So basically, as smart as you guys are, you can't come up with a plan B?
I think they don't want to come up with the plan B.
Well,
They've
we've
evaluated
done,
this a number of times.
right,
Yeah, I know.
we've gone through multiple
Hang on.
iterations of this. We've tried different options in the past. We've done four-way stops. We've done yields. We found what we thought was an excellent solution and the money to pay for it, and it was decided not to do that. So I'll let these guys speak if they want to, but as quote-unquote spokesman for the group, we feel that we've done our due diligence and done everything that you've asked us to do.
And, I mean, this issue's been going on for 20 or 30 years. This is not a new issue. And there have been multiple iterations brought before city council for discussion and at budget time as well. And if you recall, DOT would not fund any other option but this option as the safest option. And this was the only safety dollars available. Now, if council chooses to do something different than is recommended, any one of those options that have been recommended over the years, the council has the ability to do that.
Yeah.
You won't be receiving IDOT funding to do that, but you can certainly choose to do that. And there have been a number of iterations. So the homework's been done.
Sure.
It's just time for council to decide if you want to do something different than is recommended by staff and I'd say by IDOT as well, because they would not fund those other options. Or if
Starting next year,
it's really
they're going to start
back in your
making
hands.
West Middle School become the middle school. So those traffic counts that you have are probably going to drastically change. So I would definitely probably entertain that, looking at other options as we can probably come up with besides the roundabout, because obviously that's not going to be done as far as at least this council. And if it turns out that there's other options that are available, I think that should be presented, as what we're trying to get at, because I think those traffic counts are going to change. Even what we had before, it's not going to probably be the same if you start throwing one middle school with this whole community in one middle school. So I would definitely think that this time next year, you're going to have a completely different, complaints or lots of stops or lots of potential issues there that I think we're going to have to address as a city.
And for that would, in my mind, would make that four-way
Even worse.
stop sign even worse.
Well,
by putting that
then
in-
maybe
by
we
putting
would
that in
maybe
place.
look at it addressing and saying, okay, can we come up with a true cost for stoplights? We took out many stoplights already. I think even there on Hauser, we took one out. I think we took another one on A Street out. And I know we had initial cost initially. I think we're, I think out of my norm and what I believe those costs to be, but I think we could probably do another estimate on some of those and actually get some quotes to actually provide to the staff and then have them provide to us to say, okay, these are legitimate numbers of what an actual lighted signal would be. And we could look at maybe even having the discussion with the school board, because it's obviously going to be helping them as well too.
And in my mind, if you're putting in, a signalized intersection was examined by staff as well.
Correct, but I think
And
that was a
you're-
potential inflated number because they wanted the roundabout.
And I hate to say something that may cause, but I think you'd be
it
acquiring.
was 350,000.
I think you'd be acquiring property on all four corners if you're going to
it's my
do that
opinion.
right with a signalized
Mayor,
intersection.
Council, I'm just going to interject this real quick because as
Okay.
part of the traffic committee, but also as a city engineer, I can't in good conscience recommend something to you guys that I think will make it worse. I mean, with the way it functions now, it is the best
So is it
alternative you
staff's
have.
position that the only solution for Hauser Fulham is a roundabout?
That,
Otherwise, it's not safe and it's a
there's
big,
two different things. There's a mini roundabout and then there's a roundabout. You know,
or
so
mini.
either one of those would have worked, but the real regular roundabout would have been very expensive. I'm not going to go back and
We
recreate
don't need to
ancient
rehash
history. I don't want
that.
to.
Council voted it down.
Right.
Right.
It's not important. But if we were to say, you know, you could put a four-way stop there, I honestly, in all good conscience, believe with especially what you said, Santos, about the fact that the school's going to go through there, especially with Arbor Commons subdivision of 60-some-odd homes at the end of Folium, I think you are going to make it worse.
Yeah,
I mean, the experiment that we did,
I
to
completely
us,
agree with
proved
you.
that it would
I'm not
make it
saying,
worse. So if you put signals in, it's certainly the purview of the council to direct us to proceed further with better information about those signals. But I'm telling you, that is no small amount of money.
So
No small
basically,
amount of money.
so.
You're going to have property acquisitions, you're going to have major utilities you have to move, all of that. So I want to reiterate what Brian said. I mean, we are not trying to be clever or anything else. Just tell us what you want us to look at and we'll look at it.
I don't have a problem with roundabouts myself. In fact, I love our roundabout at Cedar. But what I hear is there were several different ideas for Hauser Fulham. Staff chose mini roundabout. Council said no, and now council's saying, please go back and look at another idea because we didn't like that idea. And I'm hearing staff say, no, we're not gonna do that. Is
We've
that-
already done it.
I-
I've been
I
on
know
this
you-
committee
you-
for 15-plus years.
I hear that.
And it gets frustrating when we bring something to you and you don't,
I understand.
and then
So what?
the whole thing about the 350,000, that was a pretty good ballpark figure, I think.
Okay, but we've already had issues where we say, okay, these are certain numbers that are gonna be, but that's not what it actually cost. So what I'm asking is actually an estimate, maybe from a contractor, or who actually gonna put it in, before it's just saying, okay, we put in,
And
we
that's
put in
fine.
lights.
Again, I've been on this committee for 15 years.
Okay.
And it gets frustrating when we talk about the same thing over and over.
And from my experience, I think this is the only one that we've actually turned down. So I don't know when you say 15 years that we've
Well,
had many streets
I
that we've
do want
turned
to tell
down.
you, I concur with what everybody else says. A four-way stop is not the issue.
And I agree
or
with that.
a good-
I'm not disagreeing with that. We're
Okay.
just saying if we're wanting to
Because I
actually
keep
put in
hearing we need a
something-
four-way stop there, and that's,
I'm not, no,
that's a
I know
terrible
that'll back
idea.
up cars all the way back up to the high school and back all the
Right.
way down. I completely.
but you
agree.
understand my frustration with this whole
Yes.
thing, too.
But when we have an enormous amount of feedback from the community saying, we don't want a mini roundabout, it's our responsibility and our due diligence to make that responsibility, to make that vote heard.
I'm
not
gonna
gonna
challenge
say.
that.
Hang on, let
That's,
him
okay,
finish.
so that's, again, that's everyone else has their opinion on it, and that's why it wasn't voted one way completely, you know? And so my point was just, if we're gonna have actually signals, can we get an actual legitimate number versus just a estimate?
And that's fine, but you keep telling us to come up with different ideas. We've given every idea.
Oh, I'm not
Including
asking for
Just
multiple
gave
different
one.
ideas.
signals. That's my point, is that there's been, over the years, there's been a number of recommendations for that intersection. And that,
Well, I
guess
think
that's my
everybody
point. And
has
if
a
you
different
want
opinions, I guess, is the
specific-
challenge.
If the council as a whole would like us to focus on a specific resolution, just let us know which of those recommendations that we've talked about a number of over the years at this intersection. Just let us know. And if it's a signalized intersection that you'd like us to look at, then we will look at it, signalized intersection. There will be cost to that, so it may be a budgeted item or whatever if we're going to do a study. But we just need to hear from you what you would like us to do next, because we've already provided over a number of years multiple recommendations for that site.
Yeah.
Right, and that was my point. You know, if you want numbers for lights, I'm sure we can get you a firm number for that.
Just to interject with a little bit more history on this, is on the traffic committee, that there probably is eight or nine things that we've looked at and discussed, and one of them being is leave as is. So with the top option, you know, not being approved, then we go to number 2, which would leave as is. And as to the cost of the lights, I feel like kind of have a realistic handle on it. It's kind of based on the numbers when we added the set of lights at the high school as part of the Cedar project. The numbers were in that ballpark, and there's no, you know, it's reasonable to think to add a set of lights there at that intersection wouldn't be that vastly different than what we
So
paid to add
when
one.
we set those satellites, did the school help at all?
Don't believe
I didn't
So-
hear your question.
When we set the lights on Mulberry for the high school, did the school board help financially on that?
No, but I believe there was a grant, wasn't there? Yeah,
There's a grant.
yeah.
Which was the program that we were getting,
Right.
gonna get the mini roundabout money under.
So there is, and I go back, I voted for the roundabout, but over the years, and I've been here for most of them, we've had a variety of things from left-hand turn lane, right-hand turn lane, no turn, no left turn from this time to this time, which is an absolutely ridiculous idea. You have, somewhere I assume that there's a list, and top of it was roundabout, and you're.
Even way back when, before there were roundabouts?
No.
So what was it then that they turned down?
They've just been talking about a variety of things, and it all took right away, or it caught access, took away somebody's access to their property at different times of the day. It's lighting, it's signals, it's been a variety of things. And if we have, without creating a lot of work, a list of, okay, 4-way stops cost this costs this costs this, just give it to council. I'm not in favor, personally, it's a problem about 20 minutes a day.
And that's it.
Twice a day, and that's it. And it's only during the time school's in session.
Yeah.
So it's not even the entire year. You want to see some cars backed up? You can look out my living room window in the morning right now. They're just lined up, going to the intersection. I don't know how far down toward the bypass they go, but they're backing up. So
20 minutes a day, 9 months a
it's
year.
a problem, yeah, but it's not very long. So maybe we're trying to fix something that really doesn't need to be fixed.
So that's,
People need to adjust their schedules.
that's kind of the summary that we came up with. And I want to make it very clear that, you know, we are the city staff. We work for the city, we work for you, we work for city administrator, we work for the community. We're not working against anybody here. We were asked to find a solution. We did the best that we could. We thought outside the box. We looked at everything else that has been presented over the last 15 years. As Brett said, I don't have that history here, but we looked at everything. Our recommendation, once again, was the mini roundabout or leave as is. So that's why we haven't had a second recommendation, because the second recommendation, as Andrew said, was to leave it as is. So that's where we are at this point. You can ask us to look at 100 different things, but we feel that we already have. And that's not, we're trying to not listen to you and say we know what we're doing more than you or whatever. That's not the point of what this is. We feel that we've exhausted all those possibilities. We've brought them forward, and where we are today, as it is the next best thing, in our opinion, to the mini roundabout. I take offense to being told that we were trying to cherry pick something to get what we wanted to. That's not the point. We felt we had a good solution. We didn't falsify any numbers. We're professional staff members. We don't do that kind of stuff. That I find offensive, and I don't appreciate that. But as a staff member and working for this community that I'm dedicated to work for, as well as everybody else, we're trying to do the best that we can. We felt that that's what we did. We provided you the best answers that we had at the time. And so we are where we are, and our recommendation is to stay where we are.
Okay, just as a question, just throwing it out there, because we have no control over how the school district starts and ends the school day. Would staggered start times and staggered dismissal times, in your opinion, help with this problem?
I can't give you a good answer at that right now. We would have to see what those times would be and how that would affect it. I don't know what their anticipated volumes are for next school year for their schools. That's something that we could look into.
Yeah.
We haven't been asked that. That's a little bit different than what we've been asked to do. So we can look into that and see. That may be a solution. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I can see where there's McKinley and West right there together. West is almost going to double in size as far as
Understood,
population.
yeah.
So which means you have double the parents over there picking up and, dropping off kids.
Right. We have,
Might be something we could ask the school board about.
Yeah, we're confined by space and money. We can't build a slip lane around there. We don't have space for that. We only have so much right of way. And I mean, if you wanted to go real outside the box, yeah, we could buy up houses and do all different kinds of stuff. But what's your cost benefit for that as well? So anyway, thank you for allowing me to vent that out.
I would also add that the middle schools are changing from 6, 7, 8 to 7, 8. And so the 6th grade is going to be spread in the elementary buildings throughout the district.
That
So
is
it's
true.
not going to double.
Okay.
That is true.
Just as a point.
With a new name, Muscatine Junior High.
The reason why I made the comment in regards to the numbers is because we heard two different numbers, 250 and 350. And so there's a significant cost difference as far as
Sure.
the lights. And that's why I'm trying to go back through the minutes where that was actually came out. But that was my concern,
And
saying, it obviously to me looked like, well, how are you off $100,000?
We're basing that off estimates from past experience and conversations with Muscatine Power and Water. They know what those things cost. They're their numbers. So,
But if it was my comment, I don't want you to, I apologize if you think that I'm more around in my view, is just saying, if we're going to have a number, have one legitimate number of what it's actually going to be for us as a council to say, are we off 100,000? I'm challenged by thinking, how do we interpret that?
fair enough.
I didn't know I was opening that can of worms, but go ahead. And my next question may be you as well, and hopefully it's not as extensive. So we were at Creations by Oz, and there's like a big deep hole out front. I went and moved my car because I thought it was going to cave in. What's going on?
We have a sewer issue there. The sewer from the main towards the building has got a hole in it, so that allows dirt and soil to go in there, which the hole is bigger. The reason that we haven't done that work yet is because we have so many detours and road closures downtown that we didn't want to add one more right now. We feel that it's, as long as there's not a car parked on top of it, we're not at risk of losing the pavement and, having a larger
You
hole.
don't think it's going to cave in?
No, I don't think it's going to cave in. I think there's enough, the rigidity of the concrete is enough to hold a person, but as long as we don't park a car on it all the time, every day, it shouldn't move. Once we get Mississippi Drive back opened up and we have more parking available down on the riverfront and we have more space to do other things that we need to do, then we'll get into that. But to have one more lane closure there when that's part of our detour for Mississippi Drive just didn't make sense for us at this point. So it's safe. I wouldn't worry about it. Don't stick your arm down there or anything like that. But, it's...
Well, they stuck like this great big long thing down there and never did hit bottom. So it's like this big
It's
empty hole.
Yes, and that happens when you have a hole in a pipe. As the water moves through the pipe, it brings more material into it. So that material now has a place to go where it used to not be able to go anywhere. So now it falls in a little bit of time, and it just keeps going, it keeps going, it keeps going until it either fills the pipe up or it falls in on itself. So we're not at that point yet. We've investigated that enough to know that as long as nobody parks on there, which is why it's blocked off, there's no danger.
But that's not a sinkhole.
No, it's a void from a sinkhole is a completely different type
Look
of
at it.
phenomenon. So no, this is just it's a same thing we had in New Hampshire and Pond. Once the pipe gets a hole in it, the surrounding material can fall into it, and that hole gets bigger and bigger and bigger until there's no more material to go in until the pipe gets full.
Okay.
So nothing to worry about.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Lastly, I would just like to remind everybody that second Saturday is Saturday. Go on down with your families. Have a really nice time downtown. The streets are already getting blocked off. Sunday starts the summer concert series also. So go on down with your families there. And also on Saturday is the Senior Resources event on City Hall. You'll see a lot of closings for that too. So that's their annual fundraiser that they do, their family picnic on Saturday. And next week we have an in-depth meeting, and that's all I have. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned. Good evening.
Yes, sir.